Hello and welcome to Murky's review of Banished, which is a city building strategy game with survival elements and no zombies or military type stuff. It's relatively relaxing and relatively heartbreaking at the same time. So this was made by allegedly just one man or one person dev team who wrote the whole thing, engine, mechanics, graphics, everything in C++. So it's all standalone. This person made it. You can buy it now for $19.99 in US dollars, which was when I bought it a few days ago, £12 something in pounds sterling. So it'll be about 17 euros, something like that. So yeah, $20. You can pick it up either from Humble Bundle, Good Old Games, Steam, and just through the dev's website. I'll post the link in the description. And so yeah, as I say, it's a city builder strategy game, which is pretty tricky. And I've been playing for about 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 hours now, and it's enjoyable after a fashion. So let's go ahead and load my current game. I've only played one game so far, a small map. In terms of its performance, I'm getting decent frames. This is me at 50 frames per second on a reasonable rig. And it looks, I mean, you can zoom in, it looks not too bad, as well as you need a game like this to look in terms of, for a strategy game. It doesn't need to look amazing necessarily. And so basically, in terms of the actual game itself, the mechanics, it's basically micromanagement of the game. And whilst that might not sound very fun, the scenario, the narrative is basically, these are your people. You start off with a dozen, maybe a few less, people who are banished from their homeland, who have to set up a new society, a new village in which to live. So you start off with a few people, some chickens and a bit of wood and some pickaxes and whatnot, and you have to develop until you get to, this is probably a low to medium sort of intermediate stage, where you develop various things to manage your resources. And the resources are principally, as you can see up here, people and then materials. The principal aspects being managing the professions, what people do, and then managing what they actually need. And so the main issue is that people freeze, people starve to death, people get diseases. It's pretty relentless, this game. I mean, as fun as it is, things will go wrong, and people will die, and you'll feel like you've made a mistake or not been very good. And so you do have to, something will always go wrong. You have to constantly keep an eye on it, which can be a little bit stressful. I thought it would be quite a relaxing game. It's actually quite stressful. The only criticism I have for it, besides the fact that sometimes it hurts my feelings when things go all wrong and I feel like I should have done better. At no point where you just click and do a few things and everything's done, you can just sit back and relax. There's always, it's balanced in such a way that everything's always going to go wrong constantly. You'll be trying to fix stuff. The only other criticism that's come to mind so far is that there's no real end game. Since this man just made one, I think it could be a woman, but I think it's a man, this one-man dev team. Since they just made it themselves, there is no end game. There's no multiplayer, there's no scenarios. There's some achievements which you can try and meet the criteria for, but eventually you just build up and up and up until you've got as much stuff as the map contains, and then you either something goes wrong and everyone dies, or you get bored. And so far I've not necessarily got bored, but yeah, there's not so much variety. I mean, there's houses, they all look pretty much the same. So there is no way to really win the game. It's just a matter of getting attached to your town or your peoples and trying to look after them as best you can. So if you're a fan of micromanagement and stress and strife, I'd recommend it. It's a pretty good lesson in what it must have been like back in the days before you had proper medicine and proper infrastructure and effectively society to fall back on, because things will go wrong. So if you're interested in trying a city builder effectively with pretty unforgiving balance, then I'd recommend it. Last word, a lot of people mentioned the interface. I mean, I've heard criticism, I've read reviews, people said, oh, it's really boring, the building's boring, the interface is difficult and boring, but there's a lot of information out there, so you just get used to it. Tough tits, that's the way it is. So the only thing I'd like to say is a general conclusion, which is that the game looks okay, the interface is fine once you get used to it. It's an engaging form of strategy and micromanagement, because it is developed in such a way that you're constantly something will constantly be going wrong. All these yellow symbols you can see is because I've had to stop stuff because things have been going wrong. So you will be constantly juggling things, and eventually one's going to drop, and you have to try and pick that one up and drop something else. So it is well balanced in that way, but it's always cause strife and difficult decisions. The only real criticism is that there's no end game. Eventually you will basically either just get bored or everyone will die. There's no real alternatives. You aim for the achievements, but that's about it. There is no multiplayer on the cards because this person developed the engine themselves and they didn't have multiplayer in mind. Finally, there is supposedly a mod scene involved in this game, even though it's only been out a few days. The person who developed it has said they're mod friendly and they'll be interested in people adding stuff as they go along. So if you're interested in this kind of game, give it a go. For $19 US, it's probably worth giving it a try. I hope you found that informative, and good luck. Don't freeze to death. Cheers.